So if you guys ever doubt me when I say that someday Attila is going to be regarded as real music that they're going to write about on NPR, the popularity of Limp Bizkit in 2018 is proof that I am right. What's up, everybody? I'm Finn McKenty. This is the Punk Rock MBA, and today I'm back with another edition of viewer comments where, as you might guess from the title, I answer your questions, comments, concerns, and thoughts. Our first one for today, from Corbin Smith.
Video on Dance Gavin Dance?
No, I will never do a video about Dance Gavin Dance, and here's why. Because unfortunately, I'm sorry guys, but Dance Gavin Dance fans are punishers. And if I ever do a video about them, the comments are just gonna be too painful for me to handle. The same thing goes for Thrice and Glassjaw. I'm sorry, but their fans are just too intense. The comments would be too painful, and for that reason, I will never do videos about them. From Stelio Finchel.
Can you do a video on the so-called rivalry between Taking Back Sunday and Brand New?
A few people have asked about this, and the answer is no. And I don't mean to be rude. I appreciate that you asked for that and that you would care about my opinion on this. But what I'm interested in is trying to understand why people like what they like. Like, that's fundamentally why I do this channel. Commenting on like drama and beef and all that stuff is just not interesting to me. I'll leave that to other people. Next one from a guy whose name I can't really pronounce. It's like a hipster version of Trash Boat.
One great video after another, man. Loving this shit. I was wondering what you think of the San Diego hardcore scene of the 90s and one of my favorite bands, The Locust.
I will definitely talk more about this in a video at some point about the San Diego hardcore scene in the 90s in general, which I'm not really an authority on because I didn't really like it that much, and a lot of the people involved with it were just dicks. But they had a really cool aesthetic, especially Gravity Records. They have some of my favorite packaging of all time. Check out some of the stuff they did with like Heroin and Antioch Arrow, Second Story Window. Very influential, very ahead of its time. I just hope for all of our sake that the San Diego Spock hardcore look never comes back because, oof, that was dark times.
Oh yeah, but speaking of The Locust, I made this little meme you might like.
Next one from Justin Carney.
Also, if you like that heavy 90s style hardcore, I definitely recommend Downset. They have a hip-hop influence but are a fantastic hardcore band. I'd love to see a video about them and their history.
Yes, Downset is one of my favorite bands of all time, and I will absolutely talk about them. They are one of these bands that combined like hardcore and hip-hop and graffiti. All the guys in the band have very serious roots in graffiti, but also some like really advanced, high-level like spiritual stuff in their lyrics, which I will definitely talk about, but it's gonna take me a while because there's so much to unpack there that it's gonna be hard for me to do it justice. But yeah, Downset, definitely check them out, especially their second album, Do We Speak a Dead Language? One of my very favorite bands of all time. Next one from Carlos Menens.
Have you considered doing a video explaining Tyler Carter from What Was Me to what he's done now with Issues? I think they're a fantastic bunch of dudes, and I'd love to hear your take on his previous departure from What Was Me.
I'm a huge fan of everything Issues has done. I've known those guys since I think 2013. They're awesome human beings, super, super, super talented musicians. I will definitely talk more about Issues, but let's be clear, it is not Tyler's band. AJ, Ty, and Sky, those are the guys who write the music. They are the brains of the band. Next one from the bassist 443.
Would love to hear you talk about Orchid and Stacia and the emo violence scene on the East Coast. I'm from Philly, and the SKRAMZ, Screamo, is such a good scene over here.
And along the same lines from Dylan Costello.
Hey, you should do a video about SKRAMZ, Screamo, and like that whole scene like Page 99, Orchid, and Jerome's Dream.
For any of you guys who are into SKRAMZ, I've got some bad news for you. You have been trolled. Been trolled by this guy, Alex Bigman from Fight Fair. The term SKRAMZ is something he made up about 10 years ago for a joke, and somehow or another, people started using it non-ironically, and I think it's kind of amazing. This is the same guy who put a rap part in one of their songs where he talks about Twitter and Pinkberry and Gossip Girl.
Kill your fly, crushing on you when I cannot lie. Take you on a date to the Pinkberry's world, then we go watch that Gossip Girl. You and I were meant for each other. Trust me, girl, there is no other. Now reply, you caught my eye, the 20-feet girl, let's not be shy. Word.
Okay, now let's look at a couple comments from my video about trap metal. So if you missed that, I sat down with my friend Michael Montoya from Winds of Plague, who also produces for a bunch of these like newer emo rap and trap metal artists like Lil Xan and Scarlxrd and Bones and a lot of the new faces in rap. As you might expect, as I expected, it was pretty polarizing. So let's look at a couple comments on that one. From Marc Cruz.
My opinion, this heavy trap craze is not going to last long. It's already sounding the same. The genre will be flooded with a bunch of clone artists in no time, and as soon as the mainstream gets bored of urban culture, that's when it will phase out.
As soon as the mainstream gets bored of urban culture, that's when it will phase out. Well, don't hold your breath waiting for that to happen, because if we like zoom out and take a historical perspective on this, the only thing that has happened in the last, I don't know, 35 years or so is that rap and urban culture have gotten more and more and more and more popular every year. That's just a fact. So if you're waiting for people to get tired of urban culture, you might be waiting a while. Next one from Silent Wolf X84.
What's kind of funny is that going off on your statement of the connection between power violence and hip hop, I feel like newer rappers like XXXTentacion kind of trained my ears on how to handle short ass songs. So now I'm able to appreciate power violence bands like Full of Hell and Nails more. I will definitely check out Spazz.
Pop songs have a structure that pretty much all of them follow, with, you know, the intro and then the pre-chorus and then the chorus and then the bridge and then the pre-chorus and three, you know, blah, blah, blah. And the new school of rap just throws all that out the window, kind of like grindcore and power violence did. It's just this 1 or 2 minute blast of intensity that's all of a sudden just over. I've noticed that Turnstile does that too, and I think that's one of the reasons why they work in the context of all this like rap stuff going on. Next one from Low Double or Low Doublet or Low Doublet, I don't know how to say it.
Also, let's not forget about Necro Ale, Nonfiction, Gore-Tex, all these hardcore rappers out there, even some of the Juggalo stuff like Stitches. The scenes have been merging forever. Shit, let's not forget Kerry King's solo on the early Beastie Boys stuff or the Pollywog Stew EP. Just now, the young kids are jumping on the bandwagon and using it for clout, and I call BS on half of them.
Okay, so there's a whole bunch of people that said something along these lines, basically like, oh, this isn't new, this has been happening forever. If you think that Juice WRLD and Lil Uzi Vert are the same thing as Kerry King playing a song on Fight for Your Right to Party in 1985, like, I don't know what to tell you.
It's to the point where I love and I hate you, and I cannot change you, so I must replace you.
Other than the fact that it uses like a 12-note Western scale, I don't really see that there's much in common there. They look completely different, they sound completely different, the stuff they talk about in their lyrics is completely different. I mean, everything about it is different. I think it's weird that a lot of these rock people have a very hard time admitting that what's happening now in rap is new and innovative. I think it's because they want rock and metal to own all the innovation in the world, but the fact of the matter is that the new, interesting, innovative stuff is just not happening in rock right now. It's happening in rap. And a couple comments on my Spazz video. A quick correction, as a few people pointed out.
Yo, Aaron Kenyon and Manus Bastard is the one who wrote and did the vocals on the track HSMP, not Eric Wood.
I stand corrected. Next one from J Davidson 091.
Reminds me of when I hear Judge or Youth of Today writing songs in 88 or 89, literally talking about I want to go back to the good old days of hardcore like it was a whole 2 years ago. Lots of scenes came and went very fast, and I think the memorializing of them forgets how obscure and weird and outcast and localized they were. Like no one really gave a shit except the 100 people involved.
Very true. Like so many of the things that we think of as being so like monumental and important and influential now, like nobody gave a fuck about them when they were actually happening. One example of this is like how, I don't know, in like 2012 or something like that, suddenly NPR and the Village Voice and everybody else was writing about Black Flag. And that's great. I mean, Black Flag was a very important band that did a lot of cool shit, but it took you until 2012 to discover Black Flag. Same thing with the Cro-Mags, or more recently, bands like Disembodied that, like I've said before, nobody gave a fuck about back in 1998 that are more relevant now than they were when they were actually around. Next one from Nadia Jimenez.
I wish for a wave of I Abhor Human Remains worshipping bands.
Yes, it is so strange to me that nobody knows or cares about Human Remains these days. They just did some really cool, innovative shit with guitars that I've never heard anybody do before or since. I'm gonna play a little clip. If you like it, check it out. All their stuff's on Spotify. Next, an important question from Brian Cole.
Why is Tony Hawk's gay brother lecturing at me?
Brian, not cool. I resent that. I am not Tony Hawk's brother. And next one from JK Teddy 77. This is a comment on my Bands That Should Have Been Bigger video where I talked about how Woe Is Me somehow had 13 members in like 2.5 years.
You want a band member numbers record? Check out For the Fallen Dreams histograph.
So I checked it out and holy shit, I think I counted 27 members of this band. That has got to be a record. If you can beat it, let me know in the comments. Next one, on a video I made a couple months ago about suicidal tendencies and about like bands branding and visual identity in general.
It's interesting that the very cynical Gen X 90s hardcore scene is remembered by genres and not bands. I can definitely think of some bands that should have a monstrous legacy but are still cult favorites. Unbroken, Dead Guy, Lungfish, Unwound. One thing they have in common, no iconic image.
Great observation. I actually never thought about that, but it's very true. There are very few 90s bands that have a really iconic, strong visual identity. Dead Kennedys, Black Flag, and Misfits being like the three most obvious examples of bands that were not only good musically, but had incredibly strong visual branding as well. And he's right, there are very few 90s bands that have such a strong visual identity. Good point. And lastly, from Rinky Dink.
Hey brother, been wondering what your thoughts are on Limp Bizkit's first album, $3 Bill, y'all. In 2018, it's like, we know Limp Bizkit are awful, but man, that makes it even worse that this album is a hidden classic in many ways. Wondering if you digged it too.
So to answer your question, no, I don't like it. But what's interesting to me is that Limp Bizkit is maybe the ultimate example of what I've talked about in my videos, where like what was like regarded as garbage trash for posers who shop at the mall when it came out is now regarded as like legendary, influential, classic, real music. Usually 10 years is kind of the magic point at which things instantly become real music. The Devil Wears Prada is a great example of this. Even Emmure is respected now, and I never thought I would see that day. Here we are in 2018. It is totally acceptable to think that Limp Bizkit is a great band. So if you guys ever doubt me when I say that someday Attila is going to be regarded as real music that they're going to write about on NPR, the popularity of Limp Bizkit in 2018 is proof that I am right. All right, guys, that does it for another edition of Viewer Comments. Thank you very much to everybody who watches, and especially thank you to everybody who comments. Views and likes and all that stuff is great, but what I really value more than anything else is people who take the time to comment. I read every single one of my comments, even though I probably shouldn't. So if you leave a comment in this video, I will see it. And if you made it this far, I would love it if you would join the Punk Rock NBA Facebook group. It is a 100% positive community of cool, smart, awesome people doing cool, awesome shit. And if you made it this far, I would love to have you be part of it. There's a link below. There's a zero tolerance policy on spam or trolling or people acting like assholes. So there's none of that stuff that ruins so many other groups. If you would like to be part of what I think is the most awesome group on Facebook, just click that link in the description and we'll see you there. And with that, I'm going to sign off for now. But as always, I will see you next time.